audience a quick rundown of their vehicle, discuss their situation in life, and basically provide a case for why they deserve to have their ride pimped. Followed by a quick testimonial from the contestants' family and friends, which on one episode happened to be the actress and comedian Tiffany Haddish. But finally, the contestant would deliver the show's signature line.
So please, MTV, pimp my ride.
What comes next was honestly always my favorite part of the show, in which Exhibit would approach the contestants' home and do a quick look over of the vehicle. This is where Exhibit proved to the audience that he was the perfect choice as the host for Pimp My Ride, because he had the ability to crack jokes about the contestant's vehicle without coming across as like snobby or mean-spirited. In the first season, he definitely seemed a bit more reserved, but he really hit his stride by season 2.
Pedophile, start your engines. Yo, every creep around the world is looking at this like, yeah.
Exhibit has gone on record as saying that he wasn't forced to read a script during his time on Pimp My Ride, which was so smart on the producer's part. Because if he had been forced to read lines and hadn't been able to contribute to the show comedically, I probably wouldn't be talking about Pimp My Ride almost 15 years after it ended. But once Exhibit took a quick tour of the vehicle by himself, he would approach the door of the contestant's home. The contestant would freak out at the very sight of him, sometimes practically tackling him. Like, there's no way that he didn't walk away with some bruises during his time on the show. But it's alright, Exhibit can take it. He roundhouse kicked some fools in Def Jam Fight for New York, and was even the end boss in NFL Street 2. Exhibit would then announce that he was there to pimp the contestant's ride. A more in-depth tour of the vehicle would follow, which was often even more hilarious than Exhibit's first look at the vehicle, because this is where Exhibit, well, exhibited one of his finest comedic talents, glancing at the camera.
Where do the dogs usually ride? I think I can smell where they usually ride.
They're usually in your seat right now. Or in the back seat.
Exhibit would then drive the contestant's vehicle to West Coast Customs, or in later seasons, Galpin Autosports, where a team of mechanics and specialists would discuss what would be done to the vehicle in question, based on the owner's personality, hobbies, or career. The majority of these guys hadn't been on camera prior to Pimp My Ride, so the amount of charisma they had on camera is pretty impressive, specifically during the actual work portions. The segment filmed around the table was always a little bit hard to watch, because, unsurprisingly, the former production staffer for Pimp My Ride confirmed in a Reddit Ask Me Anything thread that the show's producers would feed lines to the shop guys during that portion of the episode. So it makes sense that it didn't really feel too organic. The next several minutes would showcase the actual pimping process, where the crew would do a total and complete overhaul of the contestant's vehicle, installing massive rims or spinners, redoing the interior, restoring the body and applying paint, and of course, installing equipment and accessories that either made total sense, such as a motorized retractable grind rail on the back of the Chevy Caprice because the owner was into skateboarding, or just absolutely insane, completely unnecessary equipment such as this trunk conveyor belt, which came with 3 PlayStation Portable systems attached to it, simply because the contestant worked as a baggage handler at an airport. And don't even get me started on the car that had tiny LCD screens installed into its headlights. But once the work was finished, the vehicle would be revealed for the contestant, and they would be given a complete tour of their newly pimped ride, with Exhibit and 1 or more crew members of the shop. Exhibit would then give the contestants some sort of gift, relating to their career aspirations or personal interests, which was definitely just a way for MTV to sneak in another sponsor on the show. Finally, Exhibit would do his signature popping, or I guess pinching, of the contestant's shirt, and say the line,
"And you've officially been pimped."
The contestant would then reveal their upgraded vehicle to family and friends, and the episode would conclude with the contestant thanking MTV for pimping their ride.
Thanks, MTV, for pimping my ride.
Like I said, that was the general format for every single one of the show's 73 episodes, and it worked. Pimp My Ride quickly became one of the most popular shows on MTV, so much so that within 2 months of the show's premiere, before the first season even concluded, new episodes were moved from their original time slot of 10:30 p.m. on Thursday nights to Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. during MTV's most popular programming block of its time, Sunday Stew. With Pimp My Ride, MTV clearly had a winner on their hands, and they took full advantage, broadcasting the show to over 180 countries around the world, which at one point apparently made Exhibit more recognizable than the Pope.
Like one of those things, it was like, at one point I was more recognizable than the Pope.
When was the moment you realized that it was that global?
When soccer moms that don't give a about Exhibit the rapper coming up to me in wherever I am talking about Pimp My Ride.
And I believe it, because there was a point in time where you couldn't turn on MTV, let alone any TV channel, without seeing his face.
I got this white delivery truck downstairs. It's kind of nasty.
No, I'm not.
I was wondering, could you
I'm
just,
not-
so you can't pick my...
No, I do that on TV.
Well, of course you do it on TV. What am I doing, man?
International versions of the series were also developed, such as Pimp My Ride UK and the Indonesia-based Pimp My Car, along with shows like Pimp My Wheels in Italy, which mostly focused on scooters, Pimp My Bicycle, based out of Germany, and no, I'm not kidding, this was actually a real show, despite the fact that German viewers legitimately thought that it was meant to be a comedic parody of Pimp My Ride. The Netherlands-based Pimp My Room, which is pretty self-explanatory. There weren't necessarily any official spin-offs of Pimp My Ride developed for United States audiences, but MTV's sister channel, CMT, produced a show called Trick My Truck, focusing solely on big rigs. There was also Pimp My Ride International, hosted by Lil Jon and Fat Joe, which was filmed in several parts of Europe, where it also made its debut, but the show did air in the form of reruns on MTV2 in the United States. But now that we've celebrated all of the things that made Pimp My Ride so great, it's time to dig into some of the more controversial aspects of the series. Pimp My Ride came to sort of an abrupt end after only 6 seasons. Actually, it was 5 seasons. This seems to be a point of contention among Pimp My Ride fans, because everywhere you look online, the season counts and episode numbers are just an absolute mess. I'll spare you the long-winded explanation, but basically, every season of Pimp My Ride had between 15 and 17 episodes, with exception to season 3, which only consisted of 8 episodes. It appears that season 3 was cut short because of the split between MTV and West Coast Customs, which occurred at the tail end of 2005. West Coast Customs decided to end their relationship with MTV because their company image began to take a hit as a result of all the time spent working on contested vehicles. West Coast Customs was already an established and well-respected shop in the Los Angeles area prior to Pimp My Ride, so their increased popularity as a result of the show only expanded their client base even further. Seasons 4 and 5 would be filmed at Galpin Autosports, aka GAS, with an entirely new team of mechanics and specialists, with exception to Mad Mike, who was brought over from West Coast Customs. But as I was saying, Pimp My Ride ended rather abruptly after only 5 seasons.
That is correct.
Now, the series didn't end because of a decline in viewership or anything, but rather...
Swarm grenade out. Let's get these idiots.
Exhibit's contract was up. And not only was he completely burned out by working on a reality TV show with such a busy shooting schedule, but he was so preoccupied with Pimp My Ride that his music career had taken a back seat, and he wanted to get back to touring. Exhibit also wanted to steer away from his hosting spot on Pimp My Ride to further pursue his acting career, which had slowed down a bit during his time on the show. Now, you might be asking, why didn't MTV just hire a new host and continue Pimp My Ride without Exhibit? Out of the 73 Pimp My Ride episodes produced for MTV in the US, Exhibit hosted 72 of them, with the rapper Chameleonaire standing in as a guest host on one episode during the show's 5th and final season. During his interview with The Breakfast Club, Exhibit explained that this episode, Season 5, Episode 9, titled Jonathan's 1991 Honda CRX, was actually the final Pimp My Ride episode to be filmed. Long story short, this episode was a bit more costly than the usual installment of Pimp My Ride, because it was a promotional tie-in for the upcoming film Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. And because of that, Exhibit, who was in Europe at the time for a concert tour, agreed to fly back and host the episode, but only if the production company agreed to pay him $1 million. Ultimately, they didn't come to an agreement, and Chameleonaire was brought in to host the episode. And Chameleonaire did a pretty decent job. I mean, he did say the word urine way too many times.
True story, I used to ride around Houston, Texas. Working for a medical lab, we used to pick up urine samples in a Honda CRX. Yo, what are you doing with this urine in the backseat? I'm delivering urine to my job. You know, this hatch opens up so wide that you can easily put your urine samples in the back. I never spilled any urine in the back of the car because we had a biodegradable cooler, and the cooler was to keep the urine cool because they say urine has to stay cool. Am I talking too much about urine?
But